السلام عليكم. أسعد مساءكم جميعا. I would like to welcome all of you to our third workshop in this series, which is going to be about tips for publishing research papers in ISI index journals. This topic is very important topic for us as faculty members and also graduate students. So today, inshallah, Dr. Abeer is going to present this presentation. So Dr. Abeer Madini is an associate professor in the English Language Institute at KAU. She is also the vice dean in the College of Tourism. Dr. Abeer Madini's research interests include intercultural communication, computer-mediated communication, and cultural studies and gender studies. So Dr. Abeer, the floor is yours. You may start now.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Basim, and thank you all of you for attending the today's session. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about tips for publishing research papers in the ISI index journals. Yes. Okay, so the objectives of today's session is to familiarize you with the publication process and also to give you some tips for publishing research in ISI index journals and also give you advice on how to avoid rejection. So the most important thing is that we actually apply for ISI journals, but also we have to make sure that we actually avoid the rejection. Okay, so first of all, actually, I want to say why actually do we publish? Why we need to publish? Publishing is actually a necessary step in the research process. So if you want to do a research, actually is something common is that you want to publish your hard work and you want people actually to see it. So in order to exchange ideas or to build reputation, so you want people to know you as a researcher, so you're actually building your own reputation, or also to disseminate work on a global scale. So you want to other people all around the world to see your work. Okay, have you got, first you have to ask yourself, have you got something new to say? A solution to a current or a difficult problem? A new development on a hot topic in your field. So you have to ask these questions actually before you think of publication. So what are you publishing? Okay, what do you want to publish? Are you publishing new methods and or results? So maybe you got a new findings that you want to share with others. Are you reviewing or summarizing a particular area? Okay, so because sometimes, you know, you don't want to publish a research article, but you want to publish a review, a literature review, or summarizing a particular area. Okay, does it advance knowledge and understanding of a particular area? So do you want to add to that knowledge or to that understanding? Or maybe because you don't want to do something repetitive that others actually already done. So you have to ask yourself actually, what are you publishing? What do you want exactly to publish? So don't publish something if you if there is no scientific interest. There is no interest actually if you read about the topic and you didn't find that it's actually necessary. It's not a topic that it's actually necessary to be published, okay? Or maybe it's an out-of-date work. Okay, there are certain areas that been highly investigated. So you don't have to repeat what others already said, or maybe this topic is out of date. So for example, if I'm talking about coronavirus now, education, for example, in the coronavirus time, but maybe inshallah after a couple of years this topic will be outdated. Also a duplication. So don't publish a duplication of an existing or already published research. So yeah, so you don't want to duplicate someone's exact work. Only if you actually want to investigate something new. For example, if you duplicate, for example, in certain areas, like in medical field, maybe you want to duplicate this, the method, for example, or the experiment, in order to see whether you're gonna find the same results. But this is not actually applicable to all fields in the fields of research. Also, don't publish something of incorrect or unacceptable conclusion. If you feel that, if you read a piece of paper or a research and you find it that it's actually incorrect, or maybe you find it's unacceptable, they do have an unacceptable conclusion or finding. So don't publish it. Don't publish something related to that. So you have to think about these issues before you actually start the process of publication. So think about what you want to publish. Is it a full article? A full article is offering original insights. So that means that you're actually bringing out new ideas, new concepts. Or is it a letter only communicating advances quickly? Or is it a review, offer a perspective summarizing recent developments on a significant topic? Or maybe a conference paper, something to consider if your research project is actually in the progress. So maybe if you are actually in progress of you actually doing a research, so your research is actually in progress, so maybe you can consider a conference, maybe conference papers could be a good solution. So you have to so at the beginning, you have to classify what you want to publish. Is it an article, a research article? That what I mean by full article is that you have actually a literature review, it has a methodology, it has actually a findings. So this is actually a full article. Or maybe you want to publish only a review, which is actually a literature review or summarizing what's actually being a recent developments of a significant topic. Okay. So the stages to go through before submitting. So before you submit any kind of work, you have to have an idea. Okay. As I said before, you have to bring out something new. You don't want to duplicate someone's research, or maybe you don't want to bring an out-of-date work. So you have to have an idea. And then, so this is what's supposed to be. But normally, this is sometimes, it's very hard to follow. Sometimes, for example, we might start with we already have the article, but then we think about the journal. So sometimes, this is actually, I say, the ideal stages to go through. So you have to have an idea, then you choose the journal that you want to, publish in, and then you read back the issues. So you have to read back because you want to follow the rules of this particular journal. And then you write a first draft. Then you use a critical friend. So it's very actually, I really advise you to use a critical friend in your field. So maybe sometimes, when we write something, this is actually very common. So sometimes, when we actually, we don't see the mistakes because actually we're reading it over and over. So sometimes, we are blind to see any mistakes. Yeah, so we use actually critical friend. I mean by read back issues. So I will explain that thoroughly. So you have to think, when you actually choose a journal, you have to think about or see that particular journal, what's actually the scope, the aim of that journal, what actually the template of that journal, what actually, so we will talk about this very specifically later on. So this is what I mean by read back issues. Yeah, so use critical friend, as I said. So it could be your colleague, it could be your supervisor, it could be your someone that is very professional in your field. So you use a critical friend. Refine your further draft after you actually receiving all these comments. Try to refine your draft, and then check notes for contributors. So try to check the final notes of the contributors, the people actually who are, if you are actually not alone in your research, so you might have other contributors in your research that you want to actually find all the notes, put all the notes, and then you you proofread it, and then you finally submitting it. So this sounds very easy, and yeah, but of course, yani, to go through each stage is not as easy as it sounds. But yeah, we will. I will go through. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. 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 So first, actually, since actually we want to choose the right journal, choosing the right journal, it has actually some processes. So you have to know your audience. So a journal article is not actually a magazine or a book script, or actually your PhD thesis, but you could write a book review. Okay. Okay, so I have a question for you. Do you write an article? So what do you normally do? Do you do A, which is write an article for a specific journal? So actually you preparing, you already saw the article, or sorry, the journal, I mean, you chose the specific journal, and then you write that article for that specific journal, okay? Or B, which is find any journal for your article. So you already write an article, and then you start to look for a journal that fits with your paper. Yeah, so let me see. Okay, Amani, excellent. Okay. Okay, so from your responses, it's good that I have some A, but I think most of you actually, you chose B. So try to be in the minority. 30% of authors actually write for a specific journal. So this is actually what's happening now. It's actually 30% of the authors write for a specific journal, whereas 70% write the article and then panic. Yeah, so this is what normally happens. I think most of the PhD students or MA students actually, because they actually collect their data and then write their MA thesis or PhD thesis, and then start to look for the article. Why the panic? I will explain that to you thoroughly later on. Okay, I will say to you why actually we panic actually when we actually write the article and then panic. Okay, so why you should read a journal's aims and scope. So okay, so when you actually, let's say you chose a journal, okay, you have to read the aim and scope of that journal, because that will help you understand what the journal is about and who it is for. For example, now here I chose, randomly, I chose this journal. It's an Arab World English journal. Okay, so here actually you can find in each journal, you should have an aim of scope and scope. Okay, it's very important because, for example, if I want to publish an article about, let's say, students with hearing impairments, okay, so that means they do have a hearing disability, okay. For example, teaching English to students with hearing impairment or hearing disabilities, okay. So I don't want to, I have to look for journal aim and scope because it might not fit with this particular journal. So that means that I will raise the rejection. So right. Simply, if simply if this article does not fit with the journal aim and scope, it will get rejected immediately, because that means that you did not read the scope and the focus of the, so sometimes they call it the focus, the aim, the scope. So all of them actually means the same thing. So no, again, know your audience. You are joining a conversation with other. Tip number 2, that you are actually joining a conversation with other contributors. So the research, so try to, so sometimes you ask me, okay, how can I find, for example, a good journal? How can I see that this journal actually is fits in my field? So you have to visit your university library, look at publisher and journal websites, talk to your peers. So sometimes you have to see with your peers what actually the common journal in your field. Pick your type. So what do you want actually? Do you want it a generalist or a niche? Niche, which means very specific in the field. Do you want it international or region specific? So for example, do you want it to be known globally? So that means I will investigate this issue globally, not only, for example, in Saudi Arabia. But if I want it like a region specific, that means it's only about, you know, I will gonna investigate it only in the in Saudi Arabia. Okay, so read and understand the journals, again, aims and scope. Okay. Okay. Ask the right question and know the right answers. Who or what is the journal's editor? You have to ask these questions to yourself. Okay. Who is the editor? Do this journal has an editor? Okay. Do they have an editorial board? So that means they do have a group of editors. Okay, so they do have like a main one, or so that, do they have this in the website or in that actually in that journal? Who is actually the publisher of this journal, particular journal? Because each journal, okay, it should have a publisher. Okay, who is actually the authors? So for example, if I'm investigating a particular area, so if, of course, in each major, they do have a very famous or well-known like scientists in that particular field. So I have to see, where do these authors, for example, publish? Okay. The readership, okay, do they have actually a number of readers who actually read their journals or their articles, the articles in that journal? Okay, so is it online, print? Okay, does it have an impact factor? Do they have an impact? And I will explain this specifically later on. Is it peer review? Okay, so that means it is going through the process of reviewing. Also, I will explain this thoroughly. Also the submission process. Okay, ask yourself, does that article or does that journal has a process of submission? For example, do they you submit it electronically, or maybe or they just ask you to send it through an email? Okay, so you have to ask yourself these questions. Does the journal actually has an open access policy? And also I will explain this thoroughly. Okay, so I want you to, since we are actually starting with the process of thinking, so I want you to see this process of think, check, and then submit, okay? So we have to think first. So a publishing industry initiative which aims to help you make informed choices and choose trusted journals to publish your research, okay? Provide you with a toolkit to assess whether the journal you plan to submit to is an appropriate for your work and is also a respected, reputable journal. Okay, so you want to make sure that is actually this journal is a very trusted journal, because this is actually your work. This is your hard work that you put in your energy and your time. So you want to make sure that actually you publish it in a very well-known or trusted journal. This actually journal is very respected. It has a reputation, okay? Okay, so also you have to think, do you or colleagues know the journal? So maybe you ask them, okay, I read about this journal. Do you know this journal? Yeah, Hassan, I will explain to you what is actually peer reviewing, and I also will show you some types of peer reviewing. Okay, so you have to ask them, do you know this journal? Okay, I'm considering of publishing this research in that particular journal, but does the name actually occur to you, okay, in any way? Is the journal actually clear about the type of peer review that is uses? So I mean by peer review is actually, because when you actually submit the article to that journal, it should has a process of reviewing. It should have editors who have actually reviewing the work, and then will say to you, okay, is it accepted or get rejected? So is it clear? Or maybe, okay, so they say, okay, you have to know, because they will write the good journal actually, or let's say it should write each of all these details, and they should mention all of these details: the scope, the aim, the type of reviewing, how you're gonna submit, all of these things. Can you easily identify the identity and contact the publisher? So can you actually contact the publisher? Yani, for example, if you do have a question, so are you gonna actually be able to identify who actually I'm talking to? Because as you know, we're gonna submit through an online, we submit it online, so we have to know who actually I'm talking to. Am I talking to a computer or something? Okay, if I send it to email, so this is actually my work. This is my raw work. That means that it could be stolen by others and be published. Okay, so I have to be careful about this. Is the publisher a member of a recognized industry initiative? So is it this publisher known? Is it come from an institution, a well-known institution or a university? Do the publisher promise a quick publication? Okay, so sometimes, they promise you a very quick publication. So, okay, if you submit your work will be published in 2 weeks, for example. Okay, so so this, maybe you can think of, okay, this kind of fishy. You actually ask me for a quick publication, maybe for amount of money, maybe. So they will say to you, okay, you have to pay $400, and I will promise you a quick publication within 2 weeks, for example. Okay, so because you are sometimes, you know, you are a disparate student or a faculty, so you say, okay, I want to publish in this journal, and then halas, that's mean that I do have published work. But you have to be careful about predatory journals or fake journals. Actually, all of us actually trapped to, I mean, all of us actually, we trapped to the predatory or fake journals. Okay, so actually these links will help you to investigate whether actually these journals are fake or not. We are lucky, alhamdulillah, to have something like that. Actually, here we have Bale's list. Bale's list, actually, why we call it Bale's list? Actually, this is actually referring to Jeffrey Bale, which is actually an American librarian and a library scientist, who is best known for drawing attention to predatory open access publishing. So actually, they promise you sometimes, you know, an open access, and they promise you a quick publication. So you have to be very careful about this. Sometimes, you know, when you're actually searching in these websites, okay, make sure you don't write the name of the journal. Sometimes, you know, some of them, they will see if that predatory or not by writing the name of the publisher. Okay, because sometimes, you know, it's happened to me actually before. I wrote the name of the journal and I said, oh my God, this is not predatory, it's good. Actually, when I searched by using a publisher, the name of the publisher, not the journal, actually I found it in Bale's list. So these are actually the links. You can actually take a screenshot of them to use them later on. Okay, cool.
Could you please add a QR code instead of links? Because it's unreachable.
Okay, maybe you can take a screenshot for them. I can't actually do a QR code now, but yeah, so maybe you can actually just take a screenshot of them so that you can actually use it later on. Yeah, and even if you write, only if you write predatory journals, it will occur to you, Bale's list. So it's very easy to find. Okay. So how can I, actually journals, they do have a citation metrics. Okay, citation metrics. What do I mean by citation metrics? It's widely actually used as a measure of quality. So they do have a measure of quality. So who actually interested of these measures of quality? Librarians like Jeffrey Bales, who are actually interested about that. The people who actually looking for grant awarding. So you're actually looking for grants and awards, okay? Maybe for people who actually looking for promotion. Lots of faculty actually want to publish because they, all of us actually, we want to publish, even though, you know, we want to share knowledge and all of these things, but also we seek promotion, okay? Also, it is actually, it's very important also for researchers. Okay, so in the simplest term, they calculate the average number of citation over a specified period of time. Okay, so in each journal, it should has an impact factor, okay, and a social sciences citation index, okay, or it could be Scopus. So we do have two types of journals, Some of them, we call them ISI journals. Some of them, we call them Scopus. All of them depending on the average number of citations. But it depends. Sometimes, you know, the difference is the period of time that is actually they calculating these things. But all of them depending on the average number of citation. There are many factors to consider when deciding which journal is right for your paper. Yeah, so it's very hard to, if you do have some guidance, you can actually find the correct or the right journal for your paper. Okay, so the research impact publication is the quality research design, top theory, hot topic. Most of them, they are open access. I don't mean that if they are not open access, and I will explain open access. I already explained it to you. So open access is actually, that means it can be readable to everyone. Doesn't mean that if the journal is not open access is a bad one. No, but this is a decision that you have to make yourself. So if you want it open access, that means that more people gonna read it. More people can actually investigate your work. But if it's not open access, so doesn't mean it also gets more citation. So some journals who are actually ISI, they are not open access. And also some of them, they ask you for like an amount of money. It's very expensive actually to make it an open access. But it is something that you have to consider. Okay, in journals with large leadership number, in a top journal by quality measures. So if this top journal by quality measure, we call it high impact factor. Okay, so these actually, Clarivet analytics actually it's used for ISI, to search for ISI journals, okay? But Elsevier, actually, we use it for Scopus, okay? Nature, actually, it's used for international weekly, it's more like for science, okay? For example, in our field, in the field of education, in my field, Thomas Reuters, so we call it a web of science, okay? So, okay, so now I will explain to you what is actually the impact factor. Impact factor is actually each journal should has an impact factor depending on the number and how it's like a simple calculation. It's actually how they gonna, how they do it. First, by the number of times the article is published in the past 2 years that were cited by index journals by the total number of citable items. So you don't have to know this specifically, but actually the number of citation, it's actually make the journal highest in ranking. So the higher the impact factor, the highest actually the ranking of that particular journal. Okay, so the impact factor is actually a measure reflecting the average number of citation to an article published in Science and Social Sciences journal. So they use it actually to, so that's mean if I want to look, طبعا عندنا في الuniversity we do have a web of knowledge. ممكن انت you search actually the ranking of that journal. So the highest the ranking, the highest, so it will be the better طبعا. يعني yeah. طيب, I will show you some, maybe I will share some links, more links to you, but I didn't actually, sorry, I did not think about the QR code, but all of these actually search engines or search tools to search for ISI journals, Web of Knowledge, Elsevier. We have also in our field, we do have Springer. Yeah, so you can use all of these websites actually to search search for the ranking of that journal. Okay. Okay, so as I said before, you can actually take a screenshot of them so that you can search or use them later on, inshallah, if you need it. Okay. Okay, so this is actually an example. Actually, I chose some journals who are actually very famous in my field of research. It's about more like an education. Let's say the journals who are ISI journals in education. Okay. But of course, I know that you do have a very different fields of research. So I'm just putting this table as an illustration, okay? So, for example, let's say an Australian Journal of Linguistics. Each journal actually has an ISSN number. What does that mean? It's actually, it's an international standards serial number, okay? Each journal should has that, which will help you. So for example, if you use the websites that I just added in the previous slide, so some of them, they will ask you to put the journal title, but some of them, they will ask you to put the ISSN number. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So for example, if I want to look in any of these search engines or search tools, they will ask me, do you want to, so with the title of the journal title, or you add the ISSN number. That's why I'm saying that each journal should has an ISSN number. So this is actually the name of the journal, but this is, we call it a publisher, okay? So also in the Pales list, you search for a publisher. So for example, in my field of research, Taylor and Francis, Springer, Sage Publications considered to be a very high quality publishers, okay? Okay, so as you can see here, you have to look for this information. Who is actually the name of the journal, the ISSN number, who is actually the publisher, and also the cost of publication. Is it free? Is it maybe costing? You know, it's what's confusing sometimes, you know, it's as I said before, that not necessarily if the journal ask for an amount of money, that does not mean that this is a bad one. No, in certain, for example, in science research, they most of the journals, very high quality and ISI journals, they ask actually you have to pay for the journal, okay? But you know, some of them, they are free. You have to think about the number of words, okay? So each this is actually answering the question who raised before, that why we actually panic, okay? Because each journal has a specific number of words, okay? It's very rarely that you do have an article, I mean a journal that asks for no word limits, okay? So sometimes, let's say, so for example, here it's 7,000, here it's 6,000 to 8,000. Here, for example, ask for a number of pages, like 25 to 30 pages. So sometimes, you know, what's difficult is that, let's say if you wrote an article with 5,000 words, okay? So it's very hard for you to find a particular journal that fits with the number of words that you actually, of your article, yeah? So you will find it difficult to publish in these prestigious or ISI journals. So you have to put in mind first, actually, the number of words required. So they, make it, you know, some of them they, so you have to make sure that it's actually, let's say, as you can see here, for example, it is 9,000 words maximum, okay? Or maybe if you actually wrote, let's say, a PhD thesis, this is not a PhD thesis. This is actually an article. It should look like an article. It's not, should not look like a PhD thesis. I mean that, what I mean by that is that the PhD thesis or an MA thesis is a very lengthy one. And you know that actually in order to write one, it should exceed like 25,000 or more, okay? So you have to take, take that amount of numbers, okay? Also, you have to think about the awaiting time, okay? So for example, okay, so as you can see here, the awaiting time is so long. Yeah, sometimes most of them between 12 to 28 weeks. So maybe some of them they publish, and if they publish in 3 months, that's good. That's a very good, actually. Some of them they actually take like a year or a year and a half. It's a very lengthy. So you have to think about this before you take any decisions. So you do have to think about or take some decisions before actually choosing that particular journal. Are you able actually to wait that long, or you don't mind? Plus, you already graduated, or you are a faculty, so you don't mind actually the wait. So that's why you actually send it somewhere. Sometimes, you know, it happens that I remember that one of my published research took 3 months, and another one took actually more than a year to publish. I know it's a bit, it takes time, but it's worth it, inshallah. Okay, so, okay, what is actually an open access? Is actually making content freely available online to researchers. Actually, you make it available online. You make measuring your article can actually read by anyone, anywhere. So you actually make it more feasible to others. Making content reusable by third parties with little or no restrictions. That means that someone can use your work with little or no restrictions. Okay, so sometimes, you know, actually as students or even faculty, we struggle sometimes to find certain journals because they are not open access. So because actually the aim of these journals is actually not to make it available to individuals, but to make it available to universities or libraries in universities. Okay, so they target libraries, not individuals. But fortunately, actually, the university, King Abdulaziz University Library, it's very rich. So you have to go and search, and I'm sure that you will find lots and lots of references and valuable things to you. And even actually, if you didn't find it, you can actually request it or something. So they actually doing a very good job actually in this. Also, there are some reasons actually to publish in open access research. Increasing discoverability, so people can discover your work. Anyone can read and cite your work. Reaching beyond academia, it can be easily accessed by people outside of your research field and outside the scholarly community. So it can be reached by people all around the world, highlighting your work, and you can share and post your final published articles anywhere. And also you have the ownership of your own work. You retain the copyrights to your work. So you can actually, as also something very important about this. Okay, so what I want to say is that some people or some faculty or some students, you might have some account or an account in ResearchGate, let's say, okay? So if that journal, I mean, if that article that you published is not open access, you don't have the copyright of that article anymore. So you cannot actually attach it to your in your website or in your ResearchGate account. So you have to be very careful about this, because if it's on, that's why I'm raising the issue of copyrights. If you do have it, if it's an open access, you do have the ownership, you do have the copyrights. So you can actually just attach it to your ResearchGate account. You can attach it, but if it's not, be careful. You don't have the right to do that, to do so. You have to get permission. Okay, so wider circulation, higher visibility, faster publication. You get actually larger readership and also increase your citation. It's very important to us actually. It's very motivating actually to motivating for people to actually, when you see that your work is actually readable by others and actually it being cited by others. ResearchGate, this actually you can make an account in that ResearchGate to add your research and make it more feasible to others. Okay, so you can actually write, for example, you make an account, put your name. So that's actually these consider as, maybe this is a very different also topic that we maybe will investigate later on, but about increasing the visibility of your research. So you can make an account, then you write some information about yourself, you add a research that you actually published, and then you can actually link it to the PDF file or share a PDF file. So people can, through the ResearchGate, so they can see you, read your papers, read your work, and also cite as well your work. Okay, I hope it's clear. So it's like a website that you add, you make an account in it, and then you add, yeah, so you can add actually your own articles. Yeah, you can add your own articles, but I'm saying that if you don't have the ownership, if the article you publish is not open access, you cannot actually attach it. Okay, so be careful about this. Okay, so think, I want you to think like you are an editor. If you are an editor in any journal, okay, authors actually need to think, what is it like to be an editor of a journal? How many papers is the editor is receiving per day or per week? What is going to actually make the journal pay attention to my paper? So imagine I'm an editor, I'm receiving tons of papers every day or per week, okay? So what is actually making this notable by me, or what's make me pay attention to your paper? Okay, so this is actually very important, I think, to do and the don'ts list. Okay, so look at the published papers. So if you, let's say you chose a journal, a particular journal, you checked that is not predatory. You looked for an impact factor. You saw that it's a good one. The number of the impact factor number actually is high, is good. it is a very reputable and respectful journal. Okay, so if you are investigating a particular topic, look at that topic in the published papers. Okay, let's say you what I mean is that if I'm investigating, as I said, مثلا اللي هو teaching English to students with hearing impairments or hearing disabilities, okay? So I have to look for that specific journal, what actually been published about this particular topic, okay? So because if I'm actually citing some papers from that particular journal, that will increase my chances actually to get accepted. So that means that you know what is it's being published before, you know what is going on. Okay, quote from articles in the journal. So as I said, you can quote, you can add some of these articles in the journal, in the articles that been published in the same journal. Try to fit the aims and scope. As I said, this is maybe I will keep repeating this, because if it does not fit with the aim and scope of the research, it will get rejected. For example, if it's mentioned to you clearly that this journal is very interested in quantitative research, don't send a qualitative research, because that means that it will not fit with the scope of that particular journal. Format your article to the journal. Each journal has a particular template, okay, that you should follow. If you did not follow that particular, you will get rejected. Okay, so you try to as much as possible to follow the format, to format your article to that particular journal. Know where and who to submit to. So you have to, okay, so now it's ready. I want to submit. Where, who I'm submitting my research to? Do they have a clear rules about, or clear, is it clear to me how I gonna submit? Is it submitting electronically? Because, you know, sometimes, you know, if they said to you, send it to my email, what do you feel? I will feel, oh my God, this is, it sounds not normal, you know, it made me maybe feel stressed actually. Yeah, it could be a scam. Yeah, exactly. But check spelling and grammar is very important actually to proofread your work. Check your spelling and grammar. Consider English polishing, even if you want to consider someone to polish the English language for you. Ask a colleague to read it. It's good. It's good to have someone's else idea. As I said, because sometimes, you know, we are very stressed on finishing the article. We might not see the mistakes that we already made. Maybe your friends will say to you, okay, this is, you know, wrong, or you have to revise this. You will say to him, okay, I read it like hundreds of times, but I didn't see it. This is very common. Let's go to the don'ts. طبعا overlook the title. The title is very important, and I will explain it to you. I will talk about it. I mean, it doesn't need explaining, but I mean, I will talk about it in a minute. So the title is very important, because the title should be very specific, okay? Not very, very specific, but specific to know that actually what is this research about, okay? And sometimes some titles actually, they are very long. You feel that it's not actually a title. It seems like an abstract. Yeah, it's very lengthy. So so it needs to be specific, not too long, in order also to so when I actually read the title, I will know what is this talking about. So if I'm reading If it says in the title that this is about hearing impairment, that means I will expect to find, I expect this article to research about this, okay? Don't rush the abstract. The abstract is very important because most of the people actually, when they read any research, they will look for the title and then they will look for the abstract. So the abstract, it has a special formatting that you have to follow. It should has, like, for example, okay, it should have like a, for example, the aim of the research, how you, the aim of your research, for example, it has some methodology and also it has some results, okay? Don't dismiss the instructions for authors, okay? Yeah, try to follow the instructions. Don't ignore the bibliography. The bibliography is very important. When you actually write the references, most of the journals actually, they ask for a specific format, a specific referencing type. Maybe some of them, they will ask for an APA format. Some of them, they will ask for Cambridge. Some of them, they ask for numerical. So it's a difference. It depends on the field, actually, that you are, it depends on your field, okay? Don't leave acronyms unexplained. What do I mean by that? Don't say, let's say if I said to you ELI, so what does that mean? ELI, which means that English Language Institute. So you have to explain to that. People will not know. Bibliography, I mean references, your references, don't ignore them. So you have to be careful about the format. Use, for example, any software that could help you. Like, for example, EndNote, it could be a very useful thing to you. Yeah, the resources that you actually used in your research. Thank you very much. Okay, so yeah, so some of them, yes, Mendeley could be a very good one also. So it depends, what's actually you feel comfortable using, okay? So also some of them, they will ask you for a DOI number, okay? Even each published research now, it should has a DOI number, okay? So some of them, they will ask you about the DOI number to add them. Fashion care, it's very important to follow the referencing style or the format of the article in referencing particular, okay? Okay, so we talked about acronyms, so don't leave them unexplained. Don't say ELI and then be quiet. You have to say what is it. Actually, I really, now if you actually write any kind of referencing, you will find something called DOI, okay? This is actually, it's like a number or a link. It's like a link to that article, a published article. So some of them, they will ask for this, okay? Don't forget to clear any copyrights. The copyrights is very important. So for example, if this is not an open access and you want to make it an open access, you have to clear the copyrights, okay? You should have an ownership. Don't miss out attachments, okay? Be careful about the attachments, the figures, tables, images that you use. You have to actually reference them. Make sure that you actually adequately adding them to your work. Don't send the incorrect version of your paper. Sometimes, it happens a lot. Actually, when you actually finish your paper, you draft it several times because you do have like several copies of your research. You don't know, so you always call it the final research, and then you end up sending the wrong file. So be careful about this. Maybe call them by the date or something, so you don't end up sending the wrong file. Okay. So let's look at the authors. you as an author, as I said, your title and abstract. Why I'm trying to emphasize the important thing. Okay, your title and abstract are your article shop window, as I said. So make it attractive. Make it attractive. Okay, put what's new, what makes it different at the start. Think about how someone will search for your research. What search terms will they use? Okay, use these in your title and abstract to make your article more discoverable. Okay, so what do I mean by search engine optimization? It's like the keywords that you actually used. We call them keywords that you use is actually, we call them the search engine optimization. So for example, if you want to search for any, for example, let's say you are interested about, let's say, send me any topic. Yes, I mean by acronyms اللي هي الاختصارات, yes, أو الرموز. Okay, so don't write them and then don't explain them. يعني ما أقول ELI and then be quiet. I have to say ELI يعني English Language Institute. Okay, so the okay, so for example, okay, education in Saudi Arabia. Okay, okay, Greek mythology. Okay, so I have to use this in my engine search engine optimization in order to find similar topics. Okay, so that's why it's important for me to write a title, abstract, and do have use these keywords in my title and also in my abstract. Use clear, concise language that could be understood by someone outside of your field. So try to be clear. Don't expect people to know this by so for example, if I said to I'm conducting, let's say, a research, and then I said English language, people in the English Language Institute in King Abdulaziz University. So what is it? What is ELI? So I have to explain to them thoroughly that is actually it's English Language Institute that teach actually primary students and foundation year students in the university, and also they have 4 modules, 101, 102. So I give them explanations so they do understand what I'm talking about. Draw out the main issues that you are looking to address in both the title. So you have to address the issue. What is actually you looking for? Okay. Okay. So, but be brief. Don't make it very lengthy. Sometimes you will say to me, because actually we said before, I said before that you have to be unique, choose something that is did not being investigated before, choose a hot topic. So you might ask me, how can I do that? Everything being investigated. Okay, so these search engines could help a bit. Okay, so maybe the top 25 science direct, so it gives me the 25 hottest articles, okay, in the field, for example. Or maybe in that search engine, okay, Elsevier, it could give me actually the top highly cited search, for example. So I can see by that these actually topics that people actually are very interested about. Maybe little research being conducted about this area. So I need more investigation. I need need more investigation, more research. Okay, so this could help. Of course, reading. Of course, you have to read. Before actually, I always said to my students, don't do the methodology or anything before you do the literature review. You have to read thoroughly about the topic. Okay, you have to know what is actually being investigated and which not. This is actually the difficult way, but this could help. Okay, I'm not saying this is the solution, but this could help. Okay. Ethics for authors. I have a question for you. Submitting a manuscript to more than one journal at a time. So what do you feel about this? So if you wanna, let's say you finished your work, and then can you actually submit your work to more than one journal?
No, illegally.
Yes, excellent. Very happy to see the comments. Actually, it's very not ethical. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, so is it allowed? As you maybe you say, okay, it's allowed because reviewers can take months. Okay, so I will send it to someone else and then see. I will wait and see, yani. So maybe this will help a bit. Or is it not allowed in any circumstances? Yeah, so you answered my question excellently. So yeah, so actually it's not allowed in any circumstances. I know it's very hard to wait. Sometimes, you know, it's very hard to wait, yani, and because sometimes, you know, you wait and then you get rejected. There is no guarantee actually that your paper is going to be published, but you know, sometimes, you know, you send it and after 3 months you get a rejection. But actually it is very ethical. It's not ethical actually to send it to many journals, and some of them, they actually ask you for a copyright, or they ask you for they ask you this question, did you submit this work to any other? So because they don't want to waste their time. If you submit it somewhere else, yeah, they don't want to waste their time. Okay. Okay. So be aware. Since we are talking about ethics, it's very important to talk about ethics in research. Be aware of self-plagiarism. Most of the journals actually, they do have a very clear and also very specific rules about plagiarism. Okay, so if they actually felt that you actually they looked, if they do have also some punishments for that, so you may not answer, you cannot submit it again or somewhere else. So they do have actually very crucial rules about self-plagiarism. Don't submit a paper to more than one journal at a time, as I said before. So please make sure that you actually close your cameras. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Don't send an incomplete paper just to get feedback. So you don't. That's why I'm saying that they will ask you, okay, did you submit it somewhere else? And if they knew that you submitted somewhere else, because now everything is being published, everything is published and it's going global through the internet. If they just searched and they felt that you submitted somewhere else, this will actually affect you badly, affect your reputation also as a researcher. Don't send an incomplete paper just to get feedback. Always include and or plagiarism. This is a very هذا كمان topic by itself. Plagiarism. Plagiarism, that means that you actually stealing someone's ideas, or so you actually plagiarizing, or actually so they do have a very clear rules about this. So you have to use some there are some actually websites that actually could help you. For example, turn it in. Like, for example, if you want to submit any work, if you are a student, you submit it through, let's say, Blackboard, and they do have all the colleges in the King Abdulaziz University, they do have strict rules about plagiarism. Okay. Okay. Also always include or knowledge all co-authors and let them know that you have submitted the paper to be published. If you do have colleagues, okay, or co-authors that who actually publish with you, you have to let them know. You have to let them know that you actually submitted the paper to that particular journal to be published. Always mention any source of funding for your paper. If you receive any funding, I mean, you get money, okay? Maybe, most of the researchers that been conducted in science field, they got, not like social sciences, they got funding actually to pay for the equipments and all the things that actually they use. Okay, so you have to mention the source of funding, who actually funded your research. Okay, if you are using data sets gathered by someone else, check that you have permission to use them in your article. Okay. Okay, now your submission checklist. So let's see. Okay, so let's say you are finished. You wrote, you checked your colleagues and everything. So you have to check all of these. A title page, file. You have a title page file with the name of all authors and co-authors. Okay. Main documents file with an abstract, keywords, main text, and all the references. So this is actually the main document. Also, you can also have a figures, images, or table file with permission cleared. Okay. Any extra files, some journals, they will ask for supplementary materials. Okay. So you add any supplemental materials. If you have a biographical notes, so for example, some of them, not all of them, some of them they will ask for ask you to write, let's say, a couple of lines about yourself. So you have to write like a small biography about yourself. They will specify the number of words to you, and your cover letter. Okay. So some of them may not ask for a figure or image or table files, but some of them they do. Okay, depending on your field. Okay. Okay, so I think we are out of time. But what is actually the peer review? Allows an author research to be evaluated and commented upon by independent experts. Okay, which can take different forms. So you actually, when you send, let's say you submitted now your work, now it will be reviewed or evaluated. Okay. So we have different forms of evaluation or peer reviewing. We do have something called a single blind review, where the reviewer's name is hidden from the author, so you cannot see their names. Okay, you don't see them who actually reviewing your so we call it a single blind review. Okay, so they see you but you don't see them. Okay, the double blind review, actually, so they will specify to you, and each journal will say to you, we will use a single blind review, or we're gonna use a double blind review. Okay, so where the reviewer's name is hidden from the author and the author's name is hidden from the reviewer, so it is all of them is hidden, so they don't know you and you don't know them. Okay, the open review, where no identities are concealed. Okay, so we don't they are not being submitted to particular someone. Some of them they use, but this is actually very rarely. I did not hear about this before, but I found it as a sort of form of a peer review, where is called a post-publication review, where comments can be made by readers and reviewers after the article has been published. Yeah, actually, I did not see that kind before, but so that means they give you the feedback after it being published, or give you the comments after the article being published. But I think this is very rare. So yeah, so this is actually so in order to handle the reviewers' comments, try to accept feedback with good grace. So try to be patient, accept their feedback, revise as requested. Try to revise the paper. If they requested something, do it. Okay. If you can't explain why, okay. Okay, revise as requested. Also, command ask if you don't know. If you cannot explain why, or you don't have a question, ask them. Ask that I did not understand this, or please explain this to me. It's okay to ask. Turn the paper around on time. If they said to you, you have to revise the paper and send it back, like in about for example, in 10 days or 2 weeks. We say, okay, you have to follow the rules. Okay, otherwise, they know that you are not serious about it. Thank the reviewers for their time. So try to thank them. Okay, thank you for reviewing my paper, and this is like this article being revised, when it's being attached to you. Okay, so if you are responding to the paper, to them, if you are actually replying to them, responding to them, so be specific, defend your position, okay, be assertive, persuasive. This is your work, defend it. But don't be aggressive, not very defensive, be assertive, be persuasive, try to make them understand, okay, but not aggressive. Don't be afraid to ask the editor for guidance. Actually, a good editor will want to help. So don't be afraid to ask them. Okay, so there are top 10 reasons for rejection and want to avoid, that you have to avoid in order to avoid rejection. Okay, you don't want to send the wrong journal, does not fit the aim and scope, or fails to engage with issues addressed by the journal. So again, maybe 100 times, aim and scope. It could be not a true journal article, too generalistic, or clearly a thesis chapter or a consultancy report. It could be a thesis chapter. It's looked like a thesis chapter. It's not complete. It's not. You did not explain thoroughly. For example, your it feels that you actually cutting things down. It's not actually fits together. Okay. It could be too long, too short. So you have you have to fit in with the number of words. Okay, as I mentioned earlier. You get poor regard of the journal's conventions or for academic writing generally. So you have to make sure if actually your academic writing is not that good, you did not actually, I mean, that you did not actually, it has some grammatical mistakes or something. I think it get a reason or a chance of get rejection. Poor style, grammar, punctuation, or English, all of these could be. Also, there is no contribution to the subject. You did not actually add in something to the field. It's very repetitive. The topic is actually being investigated over and over again, nothing new. not properly contextualized. You did not actually follow a specific format. You did not actually follow the context that you should follow. Maybe you do have a poor theoretical framework. Most of the ISI journals, they ask or they require a strong theoretical framework of your research. So this is actually getting a higher chances actually for your work to get published. If you do have a very thorough and strong theoretical framework of your work. If it's crabbily presented and sloppily proofread, yeah, again, the language. If it's actually libellous, unethical, rude, or lacks objectivity. So what to do if your actual article is actually rejected? Actually do nothing for a few days. Try to calm down. Try not to take it personally. Okay. You could use the reviewer's comments, alter the paper, and submit to another journal. Theoretical framework, طبعا in each field, they do have a theoretical field, based on a theory. في لها, maybe someone could help. Yeah, so for example, let's say if I'm using, let's say, flipped classroom, الفصل المقلوب. This is my theory that I'm using, or method I'm using. It could not be a theory, but I mean, in each field, لازم يكون في عندنا, yes, school of thoughts. Yes, thank you. So, so that you have to, yes, okay. Okay. If you do submit elsewhere, make sure you alter your paper to the new style of that journal. So let's say if you get rejected and you want to submit your paper to another journal, you have to make sure that you actually follow the new style of that journal. Okay, the new template. Okay, editor can easily detect a paper that was submitted to another publication. If you are asked to make heavy amendments and resubmit, you may decide. Now that you can decide if you want to go through it, or is it worth it to change or to make a very huge amendments and changes or not. Congratulations, you are published. So you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So don't wait, start. Actually, we do learn from our mistakes. It's okay to be rejected. Actually, it's happened to all of the researchers to get rejected. It's actually, you think about it as a chance to learn and also to improve. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Abeer. It is one of the most important topic, and you have shared with us too many details that we really don't know about them really when it comes to publishing an ISI journal. So thank you so much. Thank you all for attending this wonderful workshop. So now I'm sharing with you 3 links. The first one is the evaluation form. Please evaluate the evaluation form, and please write your name correctly and write your email correctly. رجاء كتابة الاسم بطريقة صحيحة وكتابة الإيميل بطريقة صحيحة. كثير بتجينا رسائل يقول لك ما وصلنا الإيميل أو ما وصلتنا الشهادة. نرجع نشيك نلاقي الإيميل غلط. كثير يقولوا لأن الشهادة automated، الرسالة تصدر بشكل تلقائي. إذا كتبت اسمك غلط هيجي اسمك في الشهادة غلط. إذا حطيت إيميلك غلط فما حتوصلك الشهادة. Please write your name and your email correctly. So now let's open the floor for questions or comments. So if you have any questions, just post them here in the chat or raise your hand or open your mic and ask your question. Okay, Noha said everything was really crystal clear. Yes, I agree with you.
Thank you very much.
And one of the participants here asked about MacroThink journal. Let me go up to see his or her question. And
Okay. Okay, so be careful about it. So actually, as I said before, we all fell into the trap of predatory or let's say fake journals. Because, you know, some of them, they ask, you know, they, as I said, maybe you are a desperate student or a faculty who looks for a quick publication, but yeah, use the websites that I shared with you, the Bales list or the predatory journal, to check for it as a publisher. Okay, because sometimes, as I said, if you actually search for it as an article, because in each publisher, it has many articles, many journals, sorry. So if you check for that particular journal, you might not find anything. But if you check by a publisher, which is MacroThink, you will find the answer.
yeah, the question here, please, do you know about MacroThink journal? Can you give your opinion about it? So yes.
Yeah, again, yeah, it's the same question. Actually, we all fell into the trap of this, and we actually learn every day about what's actually the considered as a reputable or a journal that has a reputation and respectful, and what's not. But we're actually learning, and these, yeah, as I said, you can use the links that I used, that I shared with you earlier, the Bales list and the predatory journal, to check for the journals. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, here is the three links. The first one is the evaluation form. The second one is our booking system or scheduling system. If you have any questions or concerns about your writing, you can book an appointment with one of our writing specialists and we'll be happy to assist you. The third link here is the YouTube channel. So we have a question here from Abeer. Is it okay to publish a part of my thesis that is already in Proquest?
Okay, so I do have a question here. If the paper gets rejected and submitted to other journal, is that reduces the value of the scientific paper? No, of course not. Because in each journal, they do have a particular criteria, or they do have, they have certain rules and format, and so if they may not get rejected. Maybe if you, that's why it's up to you. If the changes is massive, so you have to think about it. Is it worthy to do it or not? Okay. if get rejected, you have to make sure, يعني, it's better for you actually to use the reviewers' comments actually to make it better and submit it to another one. Yeah, it's, of course, this is a normal process actually. Of course, you can publish part of your thesis. I mean, sometimes, you know, if you are actually do have like a PhD thesis or an MA thesis, you actually do have, let's say, not only one research question, you might have more than one research question. So you can actually use each one of them in a particular, you can publish them separately. I think it's okay to do so if it's not repetitive. Yani.
Great.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abeer, for this wonderful workshop. I think one more question, then we will finish. Is it legal to publish my own work from my PhD after graduation?
Of course.
Yes. Okay. All right. So thank you, Dr. Abeer, and we are glad to have you in the Writing Center, and we really enjoyed this wonderful presentation, and thank you all for attending the presentation. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll have another workshop. Stay tuned and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much.